All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking news that has just come in. According to information that has just come in, Hamas reportedly has released 2 American hostages who were in their custody. Now remember, at this moment, an estimated 200 and odd hostages from different parts of the world are in the custody of Hamas. Many of them include Israeli military personnel. On the 7th of October, Hamas, when it carried out its incursion into the Israeli territory, had captured several individuals, many Israeli military personnel, and also quite a few civilians as well. And the information that is now coming through is that 2 American nationals reportedly have been released by Hamas. It's not clear as to what back-channel negotiations have taken place, but this is in fact the breaking bit of information that has just come in, where Hamas is reported to have released 2 American hostages. And to give us more updates in terms of what is, of course, essentially a breaking story, we're being joined in by WION's Siddhant Sibil. He's joining us over the phone line. Siddhant, it's still not very clear. Details are very sketchy, but what appears to have happened in just the last few minutes is that 2 American nationals who were in the captivity of Hamas have reportedly been released. Do we know anything more about this?
Well, so far we only know that there has been release of 2 captives, 2 Americans who were abducted. Now, this has happened in response to Qatari efforts, and this is a big news for the people of America. Of course, we know that the U.S. President Joe Biden was in United States, was in Israel just a few days ago, and we saw the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also visiting not only Tel Aviv but other Arabian capitals, including the Qatari capital, Doha. So Qatar, of course, has played an important role, but essentially we know that this is a positive development that could ease the tensions in the region. We also know approximately over 200 hostages are in the custody of Hamas. Many of them are foreign nationals, and there is increased worry over their situation. In fact, we spoke to the IDF spokesperson just earlier today in the evening, and he gave the details as to the number of the hostages, but declined to give details as to when they will be released. We were in Tel Aviv just last week, and we saw how essentially the family members of these hostages have been protesting, hoping that the government will do some kind of initiative to make sure that there is a release of these hostages.
Right.
But it's a dynamic situation.
Absolutely, indeed. It is a dynamic situation. Now, earlier in the day, we had 22 ambassadors from different 22 nations who, in fact, come forth to try get this, to secure the release of these many different nationals, including the Israeli captives who are at this moment in the custody of Hamas. Siddhant, at this moment, is this something that has been done by Hamas as a gesture of goodwill, or are there negotiations that are taking place behind the scenes? Because this is a very, a very fluid situation, so to put it, at this moment of time, because Israel is not talking to Hamas. It has gone on with its campaign of relentless bombing, and now, as darkness has fallen and more bombs rain down in the Gaza Strip, we see that 2 American hostages have in fact been released by Hamas.
Well, I doubt it's a goodwill gesture, but I doubt why I doubt it, because they have hostages in custody and they will only release if they get some kind of deal through. What is the deal? Nobody knows, but Qatar surely has an important role, and the release of the foreign hostages and the American hostages first shows the American role as well in making sure that there is a forward movement. Now, there are other hostages as well from various countries, including France, and other countries are telling that they have been, their citizens have been missing. So, will the Hamas side use the hostages as a bargaining chip? That's very obvious. They have already said in the past that they will kill hostages if the Israelis do not stop bombing Gaza Strip. So, there are many nuances to ongoing developments, but above all, it is the safety of the hostages that remains the top priority for the Israeli government and many foreign governments. And for that, they have made it clear that they will leave no stone unturned. And we know that almost on a daily basis, there is pressure from these family members of the hostages on Netanyahu government to make sure that there is an early release that happens. But all in all, the ongoing tensions remain high in Israel and surrounding countries. especially with Lebanon and with, of course, the Gaza Strip as well. There have been daily rocket attacks as well. So very fluid and precarious situation. And while the situation remains precarious, the big worry remains on the situation of the hostages. This is a positive glimmer of hope. There have been release of the 2 hostages. These are American citizens, and it's basically a mother and her daughter who have been released. And the Hamas, in a statement on Telegram, said that in response to Qatari efforts, the Al-Qasim Brigade released 2 American citizens for humanitarian reasons. That is what they have been saying. And remember, the terror attack happened on 7th of October. In the terror attack, not only 1,400 Israelis died, but over 200 of them, many of them foreign nationals, were kidnapped.
Absolutely, indeed. Do continue to stay on with us, Siddhant. This, of course, is a big and a positive development that has come through. 2 American nationals, a mother and a daughter, according to Hamas, have been released on humanitarian grounds. It's still not clear as to what the back-channel negotiations at this moment have been, but Hamas is, it appears, willing to, in fact, release hostages, and this is a big development. At this moment, an estimated 200-odd hostages are there in the custody of Hamas, and they are from different nationalities. Most of them are from Israel. Many of them are from the Israeli military. Some of them are Israeli civilians as well. And some of these hostages are from different countries from around the world who were captured and who were taken captive by Hamas. And this is a big and a positive development. And also, our correspondent from New York, Susan Tehrani, is in fact joining us on this broadcast. Susan, this is some big and important information that is coming in. The 2 American nationals who were in the custody of Hamas have now been released on humanitarian grounds. What are you picking up at your end?
Yes, we now know that those 2 American nationals have been released. We have to yet to verify the gender of these nationals. According to Hamas, it's a mother and daughter. But we're waiting for a State Department briefing on the release of these hostages to get more information. We also learned that apparently it was due to mediation efforts by Qatar. So that's what we know so far. But as you mentioned, Mohammed, one family's prayers were answered. This is as, of course, Israel is likely going to go into that ground invasion into Gaza at any moment today or very soon. So this release of these hostages is very noteworthy now. It's also important to note that there are about 200 others still in Hamas custody.
And also at this moment of time, there are still quite a few American nationals as well who were taken captive by Hamas on the 7th of October. Is the American government taking any efforts on its own to try secure their release, or is it at this moment of time relying entirely on the Israeli government to in fact deal with the hostage situation where Hamas has got them in their custody?
Well, President Biden insists that the U.S. is doing everything in its power to bring American hostages home. And considering the fact that these 2 individuals were American, now they could be American-Israeli nationals, we do know that Qatar was the country that made these mediation efforts, whether it was with Israel or the United States. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But this administration claims and says that it's doing everything it can to bring the hostages home. Again, you know, as you mentioned, there are over a dozen others that are known to be American to be in Hamas custody. So, you know, they have a ways to go, but definitely promising news, at least for now.
Absolutely, indeed. So this is, of course, the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, where in the last few minutes, it's become pretty clear that 2 American nationals, a mother and a daughter, have reportedly been released by Hamas. Thank you very much indeed to Susan Tehrani and also to my colleague Siddhant Zibil for joining us on this broadcast and getting us these updates. This is a breaking and a developing story. More details are yet to emerge. It is being said that Qatar was perhaps involved in the negotiations which resulted in the release of the mother and daughter on humanitarian grounds. Because remember, the situation in the Gaza Strip is extremely dire. People in the Palestinian territory simply have got nothing to eat. And 2 American nationals who were taken captive on the 7th of October reportedly have now been released, and it now remains to be seen as to how this hostage crisis, which is a crucial element in this conflict in the Gaza Strip, of course, gets resolved. So remember, an estimated 200-odd people have been taken into custody by Hamas, were taken into custody, including 30 teenagers and children, along with 20 people above the age of 60 who were held hostage. Hamas has said that 200 hostages are in its custody and 50 of them are held by other armed groups in the Gazan enclave. Now, Hamas has said that about 20 hostages have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, but has not given any further updates as to where these hostages have been kept. Israel has carried out its relentless bombardment on the Gaza Strip ever since the 7th of October. A total siege of the Gaza Strip has been executed by the Israeli forces, which has blocked all supplies, including essentials for nearly about 2 million Gazan residents. Israel had earlier said that the blockade on Gaza will continue until all hostages are released. And this, of course, is the crux of this issue. It's an important part of the conflict that has broken out in West Asia, and an estimated 200-odd hostages from different nationalities are in the custody of Hamas. And the latest that we've got is that 2 American nationals, a mother and a daughter, have reportedly been released on humanitarian grounds. So this is the latest bit of information that has in fact come in from the Gaza Strip, where Hamas has now said that it has released 2 American nationals, a mother and a daughter, on humanitarian grounds. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.